Hey again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder. And in my continuing series of Elon Musk videos, well, Elon Musk dodged Scotus Supreme Court bar and court-martialed the clerk on the 14th of November, 2024. If you give me a chance, I'll explain to you why, sir. Just follow along. It's not hard to do. And we'll just start with this, right? That take notice that in the is not part of the court's name. And so we're going to look at one of your cases you have going right now against the SEC, I believe it is. It's in the Supreme Court, or you're led to believe that it's in the Supreme Court. And I will show you with a completely straight line of logic that it has nothing to do with the Supreme Court that you might believe that you're in, right? That it's a fictional court that's made up to fit whatever system that they wanted to implement, but it's not constitutional. None of these people have the proper oath of office. And I've talked about that enough in other videos, so I'm not going to do it again right now. We're going to get into what makes this Supreme Court bar a den of thieves, basically, and why you need to get the clerk court-martialed, and that you would have the authority. Because everybody there is under jurisdiction of military law, because guess what? They got these big-ass gold fringe flags flying inside the court. I'll show them to you in just a second. Hang on here. Yeah, so let's just run through a few things if we could, so we can, decide, well, what is the name of the court and any symbolism we might find. So this is it says Supreme Court of the United States courtroom, right? So you got those two big gold fringe flags there. I'm going to show you in an Army regulation where it says, well, those flags displayed in a courtroom would be a symbol that it's a military courtroom. So enough on that, right? We'll find out. And, but back to the name. Well, what's the name of the damn place? Well, it appears to be Supreme Court of the United States. There's no in the at the beginning, and there's no abbreviations used, and it's not United States Supreme Court. It's called the Supreme Court of the United States. And the reason that's important is, when you put that on a legal paper, the name of the court is supposed to go at the top. So whatever name you put on there at the top is the court it went to. That's not hard to understand, right? It's just simple logic. Well, not when an Esquire gets a hold of it. I'll show you here in just a second. And then we can look at the seal, right? Seal of the Supreme Court of the United States. So now it could be argued that, well, the name of the court is the Supreme Court of the United States. But it's still not in the Supreme Court of the United States. But I don't think that there's any doubt that if you found the description of this, that we're talking about Supreme Court of the United States. But there's no abbreviation, and again, it's not United States Supreme Court. It's called Supreme Court of the United States. Not United States of America, right? Supreme Court of the United States. Nowhere have we seen the word America used yet in the court that's supposed to be part of the Constitution of the United States. The thing that we're all talking about, that we're trying to protect. Well, then, by golly, you can go look up the Supreme Court website. Now, here you go, Supreme Court of the United States. And then, across here you have these choices. Well, under filings and rules, you can find the rules of the Supreme Court, which I'll show you in a minute. Guess what the name is on the front of the cover? Supreme Court of the United States. Very good, Elon. I know you get it right away. This is not difficult to understand. It's a scheme, brother. Just, get over it and say, well, what did they do? Where's the error in the logic? And it's easy to find. Because it's in the next tab down. It's in the Supreme Court bar, which is full of Esquires, which are, by definition, Esquire is a crown agent, a Crown of England agent. And the crown was taken over by the Rothschilds after the Waterloo incident, and they used it as a weapon. And they've used it against us ever since, and Esquires took over our law system first, because that's the most important, is who's going to determine what the verdict is. And then they took over the political system, and this is why everybody's a lawyer, or they say they're a lawyer. But in actuality, none of them have taken the proper oaths to be a lawyer. And so that the very top, the very highest level bloodsucker would be at the Supreme Court, somebody who pretended to be licensed by his state going to the Supreme Court of the United States to practice his trade. But that isn't what's happening. I'm going to show you. Because on this page now, you can download a bar admission form and a bar admissions instructions and group instructions. And you can read a little bit. And if you read far enough, you'll see, well, it says members of the bar of the Supreme Court of the U.S. Well, where the hell did that come from? How do we get to the Supreme Court of the U.S.? Which, that's the abbreviation the United States used during the Civil War. It's used by the military, too, today in their manuscripts when they're deciding, people want to file a manuscript in the military, what's the proper names of things when they're doing their editorial review or something. If you're talking about during the Civil War, you use U.S. If you were talking about when the Union was completely intact, all 50 states, or all the states at one time at that time, then it was the Union. But once it was fractured, it was no longer the Union. And to this day, we still use U.S. So it's never been corrected. Right? This is actually Supreme Court of the U.S. Well, that would have to be some kind of military court. Or it's the court that the military allowed to be created to handle the business of the Supreme Court of the United States while the Constitution was suspended because Lincoln put us under martial law, under General Order 141, and the United States never came out. I think Johnson was the guy after. He did something during Reconstruction to say that the United States of America was no longer under martial law, but he didn't say anything about the United States, which is the thing that Lincoln put under martial law. And they did a flip during Reconstruction. So, anyways, enough on that. Let's get back to what we're here for. But we have to agree, Clerk, Supreme Court of the U.S., right, that we've just changed the name of the court. And so this is the clerk you're supposed to send paperwork to. That's going to say at the top that it's for the Supreme Court of the United States. Well, that doesn't make any sense. How come your attorney didn't tell you that, or your lawyer? And I'm going to show you something. Here, we're going to get you your paperwork right now. Hang on a second. Yeah, so here we go. Elon, this doesn't take long on your paperwork. This says at the top, Supreme Court of the United States. Oh, no, it doesn't. It says in the Supreme Court of the United States. Well, brother, that's not the name of the court. And guess what? Your name really isn't Elon Musk. It's, you got another name. I think I found it. Hey, just hang on a second. Hey, here's Elon. Elon Reeve Musk. Elon, that's your full legal name, brother. You can let somebody sue you. That's the name they have to use. That's your identity. It's part of your identity. It's the name, and then they're supposed to have some kind of authenticator behind it, which used to be the Social Security number. But it could be a place. It could say, like, Elon Reeve Musk of Austin, Texas. Well, that would help to identify you better. But even that isn't, Austin's a big place. There could actually be two Elon Reeve Musk living in the same town. So it should be some kind of number or something. And you get it. But, it's certainly not Elon Musk. And that's who's being sued and is now begging for forgiveness in the Supreme Court. All right, you're the petitioner, Elon Musk, who doesn't exist, in a court that doesn't exist. With a respondent who's using U.S., which is a Civil War abbreviation in the United States. I'll show you where the Army says so. And, the Army existed before there was a Constitution. It existed before, before there was a Constitution. So it existed before there was the Declaration of Independence. So whatever the Army says, right? Whatever the Army has in its books is the law. And it don't have no thing called U.S. It'd be the United States. And it doesn't have any in the Supreme Court of the United States. It would just be Supreme Court of the United States. So this is, it's a parallel system that was created that you're found under now, but you shouldn't have to answer to it because it's not the constitutional government that you agreed to, which still exists. It's just that you have to go to the military, right? We have to go through the military justice to get justice in the United States. Right now, we're in the United States of America, apparently. That has nothing to do with you necessarily, although it has everything to do with you. But all these people here, whoever they are, all say that they're the counselor for the petition. Nerd. Well, apparently that's you. But you know what it doesn't say? Is that it doesn't say that any of them are an attorney for you. And there's a big difference between an attorney and a counselor, which is the title that they say they get. It says attorney and counselor, right? So they make a difference, and there is a difference. A counselor gives you legal advice, and an attorney represents you. I could be your attorney. Just give me power of attorney. I'm your attorney. I could be Elon Musk and sign your name because you gave me that piece of paper, making me your attorney, which is normally what you do in a state court. They're always your attorney. Nobody's ever your counselor. Nobody ever gets legal counsel. They just get somebody to act as you. All right, so they cut a deal in the side room, and you just agree to something you don't even know about. But all these characters need to be in the Supreme Court bar, which isn't the bar at the like DC Bar Association. No, the Supreme Court has its own bar association. If you're going to practice there as attorney or counselor, you have to be registered. And to do that, you have to fill out an application. And once you fill out an application, well, now you get to start telling the truth and putting stuff on paper because you're going to sign your name to it and certify it. And so these records exist, and they're in the clerk's office. And so if you had a way to get there, you could prove to yourself that all these people saying that you're your counselor, but none of them saying that they're your attorney, are actually, I don't want to say licensed to practice. They're certified to practice. They have a certificate of good standing to practice at the Supreme Court, or they don't. And if they do, and they say, well, that's me, and it's not William A. Buck, but it's some other name, well, then he's practiced under a fictitious name because it's the name that's been certified that they can practice under. That's what's been certified, and if they don't use the name on the certificate, then they're a liar. But all these people would have to be in this role, or whatever you call it. It's basically the records of the clerk's office is where it would be. So you understand that because of that, it doesn't really matter what they wrote afterwards. You're already screwed, man. I mean, unless you respond now based on the cover, you're already too late. You've gone down the rabbit hole. You guys say, I don't even know what you people are talking about. And so this is where you're never going to find relief in the civilian system, in the system of the black robe priests, because they're all esquires. They're all members of the bar. And you could say that about the military. In the military courts, they have esquires also that are members of the bar. But those guys in the military courts are also commissioned officers who took an oath to support the Constitution of the United States. So they're a little bit different than the guys working the civilian side. That's why you have to take it to the military side and fucking lock their heels and fucking tell them to, support the United States. Or court-martial ass where they stand. And that's what you use. You use a court-martial to get the ball rolling, and as long as the court-martial does it right, there's no reason to even have an esquire involved. The commander can do it. Right? The full-bird colonel of any garrison could open up a case because they have general court-martial authority. It's all in the UCMJ. Get with the gentleman that just made the Secretary of Defense. He could tell you all about it. Well, I'm going to just tell you one thing about the military, and that would be this Army flag regulation, right? Army regulation 840-10, what tells you where a gold fringe flag can be displayed. And every place it can be displayed has something to do with the military, according to this regulation. And you see it all over D.C., and it's a symbol, by God, that we're under some kind of military law, but no one will admit it. And the thing that we call a Congress really isn't the Congress of the United States. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. None of the people took the oath required by the 6th Article of the Constitution, which was the first law passed after ratification of the Constitution, 1 Stat 23. It's all in the last videos I did to you, Elon. Okay, hang on just a second. Yeah, I'm sorry for rambling a bit too, Elon. This is nighttime. I usually do my videos in the morning time, so I'm already toasted. Long day. So here we are. Sizes and occasions, right? Chapter 2, Section 3. And you go down here far enough, you will see where it says that the national flags listed below are for indoor display and for use in ceremonies and parades. For the purpose of the flag, the United States will be rayon banner, cloth, heavyweight nylon trimmed to 3 sides, gold and yellow fringe, 2 1/2 inches wide. I've had people contact me, said after they listened to me, they went up and measured this thing in the courtroom, and it was 2 1/2 inches, right? It was, there you go. It's exactly what it's supposed to be, sitting right there. And I know the ones in the Supreme Court, they got eagles on them, so those are the president's flags, right? So they couldn't make it any more obvious. We're under some kind of military law, but we just won't admit it to ourselves. We keep playing politics instead of saying, no, this is a military issue. Call in the military, and let's just, convene a court of inquiry under the UCMJ and have somebody do an investigation and just pull the string. It'll all fall apart. But here we are. This is where that flag can be authorized, right? Displaying it indoors, that means, like we just saw in the Supreme Court, where you're showing it at the door of the office or behind the guy's chair or whatever the deal is, right? That's being displayed. And it's called the flag of the United States, not United States of America. All these places here have some kind of military connection. And there's military courtrooms. In fact, churches have gold fringe flags. And did you know why they have that, Elon? Well, because in 1917, the Catholic Church created a civil organization called the National Catholic War Council. And that council was given a military commission just like a person. And they were to be in what do they call it? Some kind of agent. A cooperating agent. And basically, they were supposed to then act, each parish was supposed to act as the go-through for anybody interested in any military member that came from that parish. The parish being then, we could say it's the church, but really it's a territory. In the Catholic mind, that's these square miles are one parish, those are another parish, so forth. They don't have any civil power, but they have ecclesiastic power. And so they still use, their own thing to do it with. So anyways, they have gold fringe flags. They got it, and then the Protestants and the Jews and that's mainly it. Also got these powers, and this is why right next to the Supreme Court, directly next to the Supreme Court, is the Methodist building, which was built after this deal was cut with the military. And they became cooperating agents. And that's when they have gold fringe flags. Now, they won't use them for your advantage like you're supposed to. I can't make them do it, but that's how they got them. I mean, they legitimately, it isn't the church that has the deal. It's a civil, what would you call it? NGO, basically, that they created, that was given the power. And that today is what the United States Catholic Conference Bishops is. Came from that. Anyways, there's some history. Let's continue on. Let's see what else we can show you, Elon. Hang on a second. Okay, so gold fringe flags, military court. We've already seen that they're using another name at the clerk's office called the Supreme Court of the U.S. That isn't what it's at the top of the paper. It doesn't say Supreme Court of the U.S. It says Supreme Court of the United States. It says in the on top, but, it doesn't say in the Supreme Court of the U.S. So the clerk is using a different name than's on the court paperwork. What else can we find out? Well, as I said, all these people had to fill out some paperwork. And on the website there, it showed you that they had this important information for them to fill out. And when they get done, they're going to send it to the Supreme Court of the U.S. Okay, but it says Supreme Court of the United States at the top. Now, this doesn't say in the, right? This got the proper name out, right? This came from the proper court. Got the proper name. And that is the instructions for this document, which also has the proper name, Supreme Court of the United States. There's no in the at the beginning of this thing. Right? They can't do that. That's like a major flaw in their system. Application for admittance to practice. So you got to put your first name, and if you don't believe, like myself, I say my first name is Robert Allen. Just go into the first name box. I have no middle name. That way, if they ask me later what's your middle initial, I can say I don't have one. Right? That's what I learned. But they could, if you wanted, you could say Robert here, put Allen there, last name Retluski here. Just do it the way it says. Fill it out, fill it out, fill it out, and then you got to get somebody to swear for you. Well, first you got to check some questions. You know, have you been in trouble? Da 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 da. Now we get the second page. Now they just want your first name, though. There is no place for your middle name. So if you did what I just said, then you just put Robert here, right? So now you can practice under Robert, but there's no place to put an initial in. It never said use an initial. It said use the first name. So there should never be any kind of certificate that would be issued with a name and a middle initial because it didn't say to use an initial. It said use the first name. And if somebody's going to put in their box and certify that their first name is Robert A. for myself, and then have a driver's license that says it's Robert Allen, then I have some explaining to do. So they couldn't do that. Well, they explained it to do anyways. Well, then they have to sign it. Now you got to get your... These are supposed to be sponsors, people that are already in this bar, right? They're members of the bar of the Supreme Court of the United States. Doesn't say about U.S. Bar of the Supreme Court of the United States, and not related to the applicant. State this applicant is personally known to us. Applicant possess qualifications required, admission to the bar, Supreme Court of the United States. And then we have examined the applicant's statement and believe it to be correct, and we affirm that the applicant's moral, professional character, and standing are good. Now, I don't know if this is what they mean by their statement, but it's the only thing I can find. That they're going to fill this out. You look at it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we agree. Good, good, good. Fill in your name. Sign the damn paper. Well, now he's got to take an oath. Well, now we're getting... This is dandy. So now I state your name, right? So now this has to be your full legal name because you only really have one name. So what are they going to put here? Are they going to put the same name they put at the top? They're going to put a middle initial in. What are they going to do? The only way to find out is go look at the paper. And this paper is in the clerk's office. That's where they had to send this as a package. And once sent in the clerk's office, don't leave, man. It stays there forever. I do solemnly swear or affirm that as attorney and as counselor of this court. So, see, there's two different things, attorney and as counselor. And on your paper, you had all counselors, but you had no attorneys, which really means to you that if you didn't show up at court, then that didn't really happen in the Supreme Court because you didn't show up. And whatever they did was being done in a fictitious court. Go figure. I will conduct myself uprightly and according to law, and I will support the Constitution of the United States. It was nice that they did that. Well, I took one, and I did mine right, and I agree with my oath, so here I am. And then they have to do this and get a motion for admission. So there had to be an order issued. See, now we get down to there should be a journal for the court. And it should show any day that somebody gets into the court. And if the name of the court journal is different than the name or the place that you sent the paperwork to, well, then there's something fishy going on. And they're going to tell you to fill this form out, which says at the top, Supreme Court of the United States. And they're going to tell you when you get done to send it to the Supreme Court of U.S. And in this important information for admission to the bar, which says that to qualify for admission to the bar in this court under Rule 5, an applicant must have admitted to practice in the highest court, state, commonwealth, territory, possession, or District of Columbia for a period of at least 3 years immediately before the date of application, must not have been subject to any adverse disciplinary action pronounced or in effect during that 3-year period, and must appear to the court to be in good moral and professional character. Each applicant must have 2 sponsors and a movement, and the sponsors must be members of the bar of this court who know you personally and are not related to you by blood or marriage. One of the sponsors may also move your admission. So this is happening in an open court, right? We're supposed to be happening. Whatever the name of the court is, that's where this is happening right now. Alternatively, the movement may be another member of the bar of this court, maybe a relative. Please indicate the name want to show on the certificate, which may or may not include a middle name and or suffix. Said nothing about any initials. All right, may or may not include. If you decided to have a middle name, put it on the form, then you don't want to use it, well, they won't put it on your certificate. But you'll have a certificate from the court. That's the thing. When completing the application, note the following. The first page should be filled out. Signatures must be original. Certification, oath of official section must be complete. Attach a certificate of good standing from your state Supreme Court or highest court. Well, now that's interesting. Do not submit a certificate for the State Bar Association or federal court. The certificate must be from the presiding judge, clerk, or other person authorized at the state's highest court, and state that you have been a member of the bar, so forth and so on. So they have to get from the state the thing that they're going to have to eventually get from the Supreme Court. They have to have given the Supreme Court from the state, which is a certificate of good standing. So to have that, I don't think that they're going to give it to you. I showed on one of my more recent, preceding videos about you, or to you on these subjects, that in Texas you have all sorts of people that are eligible to practice, but eligible is not the same as admitted. To be admitted to practice, you had to take an oath. To be eligible to practice, you just have to be willing to take an oath. But of course, that doesn't mean you have to have taken it yet. So you want to practice and be admitted to practice, you had to take the oath, and they're not taking the oath. There's nobody in the State Bar of Texas on their state website that shows that they're admitted to practice. They all show that they're eligible to practice. That's the world we live in. So now what? Well, if you would like to be admitted on written motion, you got to pay some money. And that fee is going to be paid to the Supreme Court of the United States. Okay, well, then why am I saying you're going to send it to the Supreme Court of the U.S. There wasn't enough room here to write United States. I mean, there was enough room up here. So that can't be the problem. They must be trying to, get you to not know it's a different court. But it gets to be so blatantly obvious. It's like, jeepers, man, this ain't hard. Can somebody just, who claims to have authority, use it? Rules of the Supreme Court of the United States. What's the name of the court? The Supreme Court of the United States, apparently. Why we send a shit to the U.S. Unless that means something. And it only gets better, Elon. This is where you sign a court-martial the clerk, because very first rule, and this has to do with the clerk of the court. The court. What court is it? Apparently, Supreme Court of the United States. No, it's the United States Supreme Court. No, it's the Supreme Court of the U.S. Or it's the in the. We're going to have to tell you. I don't know. So receives documents or filing. Authority rejects submitted filings. Right? So everything gets filed goes into her office. His office. Sorry to say her. I'm not trying to make it gender specific. Into the office of the clerk. Then they have a library. Then there's the term they do it for. Then there's a sessions and a quorum. Then you get to admission for to the bar, which is what we're here for. To qualify for admission to the bar of this court, an applicant must have been admitted to practice in the highest court of the state. Period not less than 3. Well, we've already read that. We know what that is. Each applicant shall file with the clerk. Well, then we know who has the paperwork. A certificate from the presiding judge, right, of the court where the attorney is licensed, if that's the word you want to use, a completely executed copy of the form approved by the court. Every jot and tittle. Elon, they don't get to leave anything out. It has to all be done. To a statement of 2 sponsors, endorse the correctness of the applicant. So apparently that document we saw is what's supposed to take care of that. I'm not going to get into the weeds on if it's completely correct. I'm not an expert. If the document submitted demonstrate the applicant possesses the necessary qualifications, and if the applicant has signed the oath or affirmation and paid the required fee to the clerk, will notify the applicant of acceptance by the court as a member of the bar and issue a certificate of admission. Outstanding. What's it? What are they going to get? It's called a certificate of admission, Elon. Right? Not a certificate of eligibility. An applicant who so wishes may be admitted in open court on oral motion by a member of the bar of this court, provided that all requirements for admission have been satisfied. I don't believe that part's happening, Elon. So each applicant shall sign the following oath or affirmation. And that's basically what we saw, but I did notice there was a comma missing in this or what's on there. And if we can get that far, if you really want to know, let me know, Elon. I'll figure it out for you. The fee for admission to the bar and the certificate bearing the seal of the court. Well, we saw what the seal looks like. This says it's Supreme Court of the United States. And now this says payable to the United States Supreme Court. Well, that is not what it said in the instructions. What do those instructions say to do? Who are you supposed to pay? Payable to the Supreme Court of the United States. What? Hang on now. What did this say over here? What did they call this one? Well, this now is payable to the United States Supreme Court. Well, so far we've had the Supreme Court of the United States Supreme Court, Supreme Court of U.S. I don't know if we've seen the U.S. Supreme Court. We're getting a handful of them. It's enough to make you question, well, what's going on? The marshal will deposit such fees as separate fund to be dispersed by the marshal by the director. So there you go. The marshal's the dude that has the money. Go talk to the marshal, the Supreme Court, and say, you got any deposits? Anybody paid to have their certificate from the Supreme Court of the United States, which is the place that you're supposed to be having your case heard at? All these other places don't exist as far as you're concerned. You want to make sure these people can represent you in the proper court and that they're your attorney and counselor. That was really schemy of them, wasn't it? And if you can figure out how, well, maybe you can pay the money and, you can get a copy for $10. If you want a copy, make a check payable to the United States Supreme Court. Not the Supreme Court of the United States, like it says on the paperwork, but no. See, this is the same as in your county. When you go pay your county taxes for your property, it'll tell you to make a check payable to the the treasurer of Kent County, for instance. Well, the problem is if you say, okay, well, now I need the EIN of the clerk, the treasurer of Kent County, because you're going to pay them more than $600. So you got to send them a W-9 to have them fill it out. Well, guess what? They don't have an EIN number. So now you're paying your taxes to somebody that doesn't really exist as far as the federal government is concerned. That makes you the tax evader. Because they know who you are. You wrote the check through their system. But they don't know who the treasurer of Kent County is. Who the hell is that? Not in our books. They don't have them. They don't have an EIN number. That's the point. They don't exist. And so now you're an enemy of the United States. See how easy they do that, Elon? Poof. Right? They laugh at us when they play these games. Okay. And then here we go. So they're going to say, well, Elon, I have a certificate. Here it is. And they're going to hand you something that looks like this. Well, what's the name at the top? Supreme Court of the United States of America. Well, that's the first time we've seen America involved in this business. So what the hell's going on? Because you read it close enough, it's going to say that duly admitted and qualified as an attorney and counselor of the Supreme Court of the United States on some particular day. Now, Elon, did you know that from here, attorney, to the end of states, that's actually like the name of something. It's not like attorney and counselor of anything to do with the United States. It's the name of an office. You're admitted and qualified as an attorney and counselor of the Supreme Court of the United States, which practices apparently in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. But you ain't got no paperwork that says that. This is the first time you've ever heard of that. It's not at the top of your paperwork. It says on the top of your paperwork. Well, who did this? Who allowed this to happen? Who allows paperwork that you file as an attorney and to be an attorney and counselor in the Supreme Court of the United States It's the clerk. And sure enough, I don't know if you can read that. Enlarge it here. Clerk of the Supreme Court of the United States. So court-martial their ass for running a scam. That's the administrative state doing its work. Because there's the seal of the Supreme Court of the United States. And she's saying it is, but she's putting on the paperwork of the Supreme Court of the United States of America, which isn't where you took your case to. Who are they? Elon, please find out, right? That's why you got to dodge them, Elon. Dodge the crap out of them. So in closing, Elon, if you could please do the United States a favor, because that's who I took an oath to support and defend, the Constitution of the United States, which is in the Manual for Court Martials, United States, 2024 edition. That's the place that we need to take this stuff to. And in the appendix, it has a copy of the Constitution. That's in Appendix A, or 1. And Appendix 2 is a copy of the UCMJ, which will tell you all about court-martials and so forth. And all I wanted to show you is, as far as court-martials is concerned, is that, hang on a second. And the UCMJ will tell you who has the authority to convene a court-martial. And that's who you need to go talk to. Somebody who has court-martial convening authority. Which technically, as far as I can tell, is anybody who's in charge of a garrison. In the Navy, they'd be called the commander. Why? Well, because they're the commander. Right? In the New Testament, they'd be called a centurion. They're in charge of a whole bunch of people. Right? Cornelius the centurion. It's really, you got to find Cornelius the centurion today, and he'll know what to do. But if you could take this problem to the military and get a commander to issue an order to convene a court-martial, they can't hide it anymore. He could actually convene, don't even need to be a court-martial. It could be a court of inquiry. Just go ask some questions. Prove Staff Sergeant Lusky wrong or prove him right, one of the two, but I'm one of them. Request for court-martial jurisdiction. A court-martial always has jurisdiction to determine whether it has jurisdiction, Elon. That's the key. Otherwise, they have some other way. But nevertheless, a court-martial always has jurisdiction to determine whether it has jurisdiction. Praise the Lord. That's how you get them, Elon, is with that right there. They have jurisdiction because they say so. Now, they have the proof to go with it. This isn't just, go take over. No, that's all. It's in the books. We've been overrun by Esquires. None of them took an oath of office. The whole Congress, full bunch of people, didn't take an oath of office. Even the oath they took, they didn't use their legal name, right? It's all fiction. So if you're not going to fix that, then you're really not fixing anything. You're just wasting all our time. And I don't believe that's your intention. So I'm giving you some truth. Okay, I think that's probably it. I'm done yammering. Elon Musk, Dodge Scotus, which is their Supreme Court bar, and court-martial the clerk. They'll start talking, and that'll all crap will run downhill from there, and it goes all the way to the localist judge you got in your backyard. None of them have an oath, and they're all Esquires. And no Esquire has taken the oath they need to be an attorney. If they did, well, then they can prove it. It's in the, they have a copy of it, so show it to me. Okay, thanks, Elon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.